That down, guys. Let's move on to this, shall we? You guys know, of course, that it has been confirmed by Denzel Washington himself, and then a studio guy, and then Denzel Washington again, that Denzel Washington is joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And he revealed it in talking about how Ryan Coogler has got a character for him in Black Panther 3. Well, some whispers started going around that I'm sure all of you guys have heard, that the character he's actually going to be playing, and we have no confirmation anywhere, nobody does, about whether this is true or not. Probably not, but still, the whispers have started going around, and you guys have probably heard it, that Denzel is actually being looked at to play Magneto. Now, I personally love that idea. I'll get around to why in a minute. But Josh Horowitz on his Happy Sad, I believe the name of his podcast is Happy Sad Confused. I should know because we have the same rep, he and I, so I should probably know that automatically. But he was talking to Michael Fassbender for his new movie coming up with Cate Blanchett. And he decided to throw it in there. What would he think about it? This is what Michael Fassbender says. So Josh Horowitz asks, they're going to cast somebody as Magneto. You got to pass the baton at some point. Michael Fassbender says, I think it's great. I'm excited to see who does it. Josh says, the latest crazy rumor. I don't know if this is real, by the way, or I don't think this is real, by the way, but Denzel. Fassbender responds, as Magneto? I mean, brilliant. He's a heavyweight. Horowitz says, if you're going to pass the baton to someone, Fassbender, I don't even think I could pass the baton. He's incredible. So you've got the endorsement here of the guy who last played Magneto for us in Michael Fassbender, who I remember when they were still, I don't know why they did, but there were still a lot of people when they were casting, a lot of people still said, no, it still has to be Ian McKellen. And I remember on the show, like, guys, it's supposed to be like way in the past.
He can play young.
Much younger. You can digitally de-age him. Anyway, so they got Michael Fassbender, and he was awesome.
Yeah.
Not Ian McKellen awesome, but awesome. He was great as Magneto. And now he's coming out. Now, the big problem, Rob, we've talked about this before. The problem you're going to face with Magneto in doing any kind of iteration of him today is, unless your movie is set in the 80s or maybe the 90s, you simply don't have an actor old enough to play the age Magneto's supposed to be. If you want to stick to that, Magneto has had several different background origin stories, but in the one that everybody's most familiar with today, the one where he is a child survivor of concentration camps. An actor trying to play that today would have to be in the early 90s. And I just don't know. Early 90s, mid 80s to early 90s is somebody you'd have to get if you actually want to be accurate to that. If you're setting your story in the modern world today. Mm-hmm. And that just doesn't work. So you're kind of forced to say, okay, well, we can't have his background be coming out of the concentration camps. So we have to change whatever that was. The important thing about Magneto, Rob, that I've always thought is not the specifics of him coming out of the concentration camps. The important thing is, as a young man, he bore horrible witness to the absolute worst of humanity, which turned his heart against humanity and lost all of his faith in humanity. The concentration camps is a great expression of that, but there have been others. I've often said the Rwandan genocide or some other big human atrocities that have been committed over the years. Somebody made him watch Cats as a kid. I don't know. So it's like some major, major horrible atrocities. And if you do that, then you make it plausible. To which then some people come back and say, well, just say Magneto doesn't age. That has never been a part of Magneto's character. That is not one of his mutant abilities.
It doesn't even make sense because, 50 years from now, 60 years from now, the idea of Magneto is still going to be around. And then when they make a movie of Magneto and we're 50, 60 years from now, you can't say this guy came from World War II. That doesn't even make sense. No. You're going to have to eventually face it.
Yeah, and again, I completely stand opposed to the idea of fundamentally changing the very nature of the character. He is the master of magnetism. He is not the Highlander. So you're gonna
That'd
have
be
to.
awesome, though.
Yeah, it would be awesome. Christopher Lambert as Magneto. So you're gonna have to change it up, and if you do, you need a character who can bring the sophistication and the fury of Eric. Somebody who can bring that righteous fury that Magneto's
Furious anger.
Furious anger. And by the way, I want to point out, Magneto is my all-time favorite comic book character. I've never had a more favorite comic book character than Magneto. Not in the movies, I mean in the comics. He's my all-time favorite character. So listen, and if that's the case, you are literally talking about, if you're listening to these rumors, you're literally talking about an actor who is legitimately in every conversation about the Mount Rushmore of actors, right? Like maybe you put him on, maybe you don't, but he's in your conversation. Denzel's in the conversation. And if you have the opportunity to get a guy who can bring what he brings to the screen, one of the greatest of all times, to a character like this, why not? Now, some people may say, but that wouldn't make sense because they already said the character, whoever it is he's playing, is going to be in Black Panther 3. Black Panther himself was introduced in a Captain America movie. That's okay. It sounds like we might be getting introduced to Jean Grey in Spider-Man 4.
Black Panther was married to Storm.
I mean, so there's a lot of wiggle room there. I just know this. Do I think Denzel is ultimately going to be Magneto? If I had to bet $1, I'd say no. I think he's going to be somebody else. But I'll also say we would be damn lucky as a fandom to have legitimately one of the GOATs to play such an important role. I would be all for it. Hey guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor for today's episode, Ridge. All right guys, let's talk wallets for a second. If you are still using that bulky, falling apart, overstuffed leather wallet, then it's time for an upgrade. I've had my eye on Ridge wallets for a couple of years now, and I finally recently made the switch to it, and I am absolutely never going back. This thing looks great, it's sleek, ultra minimalist, and can hold up to 12 cards plus cash, all without bulking up my pockets. It's made from high performance materials like carbon fiber and titanium, meaning it's built to last a lifetime. Ridge will even back it with a lifetime warranty. And this thing has the dual combo of looking great and being far more comfortable than that thick wallet. Because there's no win with the thick wallet, right? Like if you put it in your back pocket, it's uncomfortable to sit down, and it looks absolutely stupid in the front of your pants if you shove it into your front pocket. And right now, Ridge is having their once-a-year anniversary sale. Get up to 40% off at ridge.com/Campea. Just head over to ridge.com/Campea to see their biggest sale of the year. Now, after you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that I sent you. Once again, that's ridge.com/Campea. Rob, I just don't think it's actually going to happen. Anyway, what's your take to this, and what did you think about Michael Fassbender's reaction?
Well, I think his reaction's what I would have thought too. I mean, I love Denzel Washington. You know, he's one of my favorite actors. I've loved. I mean, I've been watching him virtually his entire career. But I have another thought about what they could do with Magneto. Obviously, when the X-Men were created back in the '60s, you're dealing with the time period of our world as it was in the 1960s. But the Marvel universe, as it exists now, they've locked it into like it's a few years ahead of us. Like it was. So here's the thing: Wakanda is not a real country. The Talocan, is it the Talocan Empire? Atlantis is not real.
Right.
There is no celestial island on this planet. So if you wanted
Why
to
don't you
have,
tell kids there's no Santa Claus, Rob? Why don't you
Jeez,
just do that?
Rob.
the point, what I'm going to say is,
so sad.
you know, science fiction has always worked best in an allegorical way.
Right.
And one of the mistakes that they've been doing with modern Star Trek is they keep trying to tie it to our real history.
Just like you tie modern Star Trek to our show.
Well, that's right. But it never was a part of our real history. That was something that came later. Now, when they created Magneto, what if they create a fictional occurrence from the past of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or something that happened in the
A
Marvel
fictitious atrocity,
Yes.
Yeah.
likened unto Sokovia.
Yeah, 100%. And they do something like that, and it could be analogous to the Rwandan genocide, but on a much larger scale. And maybe he blames Wakanda for not stepping in.
Oh,
You know, you didn't help. So he's not just pissed. He's got a lot of reasons to be pissed, and it could be something that's really interesting and clever that completely look, the Holocaust happened in a very specific time. But if you create an event that's based, and by the way, it allows you, I'm sure there's something in Marvel's history that they could actually extrapolate upon, and they can say this was a horrible thing. Or you could even go back and say, I mean, we haven't seen mutants, whether it was the destruction of Genosha or Utopia or something along those lines. We don't know what it is, but something. And it could be interesting because it would be owned by the MCU.
Yeah.
It would be, because their mythology is different than the Marvel Comics mythology. The MCU has its own mythology. So you could literally create something and make it just as rich and give them a backstory that the movies themselves own. And yet you could still have, because Denzel would be great as like the firebrand. You know, they were literally when the X-Men were created, you had Martin Luther King and you had Malcolm X.
Right.
And they were both coming from a problem from different points of view. You could do that today and make it much more relevant to what's happening in our world now. Look, I don't know how to do that, but it would be something clever writers could do. And that way, Denzel Washington's take on Magneto would be his definitive one. Like, nobody would be comparing and contrasting because the background would be different. So you can look at people, but give him his own story. And I think that would do Denzel justice. You know, so people they would allow him they let Denzel be Denzel.
Well, I mean, listen, they also played around in the movies. They played around with the origin story of Wolverine,
yeah,
all that kind of stuff. And I like your point in general because like they kind of did that with Sokovia.
Yeah,
the Talokans got axes to grind. We've got the fictitious country of Latveria, coming in pretty soon. At least we assume they are at some point.
I mean, maybe it's connected to Doom somehow.
I wouldn't be surprised. Now, look, the one big argument against Denzel actually being Magneto,
right? I mean,
is the fact that it's not because he's too big, right? We now live in a world where we have Academy Award winners joining the MCU or the DCU, right? When you've got, Anthony Hopkins playing Odin, and you've got, why am I freezing on Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
Robert Redford.
Robert,
yeah.
When you've got him, when you've got Kate Blanchett.
Right, Michael Douglas.
When you've got Michael Douglas, it is not off the table that Denzel Washington could absolutely come into it. But here's the argument against it, though. I don't know that you could get Denzel to sign on for 5 movies.
Right.
I don't know if you can get a Denzel Washington to make that kind of long-term commitment that... Because let's face it, Magneto's not just going to show up in Black Panther 3 and maybe one X-Men movie, right? They're going to need somebody who's committed to staying around a bit longer than that. And I just don't know that you can get Denzel to do that.
And isn't he speaking of retirement?
He's been speaking about, here's the thing about Denzel, though. He says, I'm planning my retirement. I think maybe I'll do this movie.
After these 15
and
movies.
then this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And he literally lists off like a dozen films.
Yeah.
So who knows? But I just don't know that you can get him to sign on. It's a little bit like Joaquin Phoenix that way, right? That's ultimately why they lost out on Joaquin Phoenix as Doctor Strange. They had it almost all lined up, but they could not agree on the length of the contract. He didn't want to be tied down to a bunch of multiple pictures. He liked the idea of playing Doctor Strange in a one-time Doctor Strange movie. And I wonder, Rob, if that would hold him back. Do you think that would be an obstacle for him, or do you think there'd be other really good reasons why we shouldn't expect it to be done?
No, I think that's because he's 70, and it's like, how long McKellen's going strong, but you never know. I mean, maybe he's done his bit for King and Country and pulls a Hackman and wants to retire. I don't know. I think that Denzel Washington has done so much. He's directed, he's acted, he's had a 40-year plus career. He's on St. Elsewhere, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he is. That guy's done it all. He doesn't have to apologize or prove anything to anybody. He's one of the GOATs. He's one of the great screen actors of our era. Although, maybe later in life he's got kids. Get some more money, put it away for them, leave something behind.
He doesn't have to worry about his one kid. John David's doing perfectly fine.
Yeah, no, but the legacy. Maybe him and his wife want to be philanthropists and do things for people in their later. It's always nice to pick up that cash, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I would look. I'm not gonna lie. I'd love to see Denzel play Magneto. I mean,
It
but
would
go
be pretty
full on
badass.
world dominating. You know, the cover of X-Men 1 when they started
Right,
X-Men 1 with
rebranded
the
it.
triptych cover or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd love to see full on Denzel. I hate you people. You're all gonna die. You know, I mean, I would love to see that. It would be great.
But to a point that you were saying too, I remember when I had the chance to talk to Anthony Hopkins about Odin, and I remember asking him about like why would you? What's about this that appeals to you? And like I remember him talking specifically about I want to be the cool guy to my grandkids.
Right. Yeah.
Because like they don't care that I'm Anthony Hopkins. I'm just weird old grandpa. I want to be cool to my grandkids. And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe Denzel could look at it that way, that he wants to be cool.
There's
to his
the
kids.
yeah. I want to see Denzel as that guy.
Oh,
You know, I mean, full on. And you know, if you're gonna make it something more modern,
Charles Xavier ain't got nothing on me. That's the line you'd have to throw
it.
in there.
that's what I want. I want that. I want the Magneto that pulls Wolverine's adamantium skin
Straight off of his bones.
I want to see full on. Yeah, I want to see him wrecking fools, as you would say.
You know, we do have to be getting close. Not weeks, but close to getting some actual casting announcements about our X-Men characters, right? Especially if they're teasing that we're going to see a couple of them in either Doomsday or Secret Wars, which, I mean, Doomsday is coming out next year.
I know.
So we got to be getting at
Don't they
least.
start shooting this month?
We might have just found out who our Jean Grey is. If Sadie Sink does actually end up being Jean Grey, which is what kind of the prevailing thought is, maybe she won't be, I don't know, but we're going to have to find out soon. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What would you think about this? I mean, obviously, Rob, myself, and Michael Fassbender think if it is Denzel Washington, how could you possibly ask for better? But I think I have my doubts that it could actually be legitimate. I don't know. How are you feeling about it? Let's say it was true. If it was, would you like the casting? Maybe not. Do you think like I do that it's probably not true at all in the first place? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.